Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm so excited to be back for another talk about rebuilding the rebuild talks with Tiffany. I have Malaysia Harrell, is it, with me today, and I'm so excited. When I tell you, you are going to hear a dynamic story about an incredible woman, not just incredible because of her experiences, but incredible because of the way that she's handled her experiences. Trust me, after this interview, you're going to want to go and research her and look her up just like I did. You're going to want to read her book and know everything there is to know about her. Welcome, Malaysia.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I'm so honored to be here with you today.
So let's start from the very beginning. Why don't you give us an intro to yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Thank you again. And as Tiffany said, my name is Malaysia Harrell, and I am a psychotherapist, a spiritual transformation coach, also an author, a keynote speaker, and many other things, leader in my community. And I'm just so honored to have the opportunity to be here with you today because my story is like a lot of people's stories to where, on the outside, their lives were so successful until something happens that may be traumatic that shifts them into another direction. And like you said, overcoming that and how you handle that is really important. And sometimes those things happen not just to cause pain, but to actually uplift us and catapult us to living the life that we're supposed to be living that's aligned with our divine assignment.
Yeah, no, that is so good. And I love that you talk about alignment and our assignment because I think we're in a time right now where people are really truly looking for clarity around what they should be doing, a sign. People are looking for a sign to get them out of what they're already doing. So
Yes.
this is so interesting. So why don't you take us all the way back? Tell us where you grew up. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, your early years. We'd love to know more.
Sure. Again, like many people, I was born in an impoverished area. So
Mhm.
also very dangerous. I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts. And I remember when I ultimately moved to Baltimore, and I remember the number going up for murder per capita because it's such a small area. But in that, I had a lot of support from my grandparents.
Mhm.
Moved in with my grandparents. I was the oldest of 3 girls, but of course, I was removed from my mom's home, around, kinda mid years, maybe around
Right.
12 or probably around 12-ish, and, just had an opportunity to soar. And I learned at a very young age that how to receive my own form of validation, which was what we would call success, but it was out success. So it was the good grades, it was being on honor society, it was being an elected official in school, it was being in junior ROTC. It was working for being a manager at McDonald's at 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So many things, and I was like, wow, I can control this, right? I can control excelling on the outside. And so I basically learned that at a very young age, and it caused me to be very, very successful in my life.
So I love that. Like humble beginnings and impoverished beginnings, when I tell you they really truly craft and cultivate character, I hear themes of grit and determination. So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Did you notice something about yourself when you were younger? Was there something that happened that made you identify and say, you know what? I think my life is a little bit different. I think I'm a different person. I'm a different kid than the other kids. Was there anything like that that occurred for you?
I think so. I believe that, at a very young age, I had spiritual gifts. And I remember talking with my mother because I would have these vivid dreams and I would come back, and some of them were really scary. And I would come back and I really learned to get messages from those dreams. And so I don't know if that was, kind of scary for some people, but I noticed at a very young age, although I experienced so much and so much trauma at a very young age, I also knew that I had a purpose. And I didn't know exactly what it was, but there was something that kept me to say, you have something that is needed.
Right.
And
Right.
so I didn't
Right.
understand until like years and years and years later, how
Right.
it manifested, because I still didn't use, them to the best of my ability. But again, after that shift, it really helped me to get more clarity.
Perfect. I love that. So I really love that you say that. And I really love, honestly, to hear about multi generations in your family. I think that's such something that just adds to the texture of your life and of who you are and of your makeup. So, because I know that we're going to be talking about career pivot, before we get to talking about career pivot, can we talk a little bit about your job at McDonald's and the amount of responsibility that you took on at a young age?
Yeah, so even, Tiffany, getting back before McDonald's, my first job was a paper route at 9 years old. I'll never forget that. I used to get tips. And then of course, they quickly took that job from me because my mom didn't give them the money for the paper. And then after that, I got a summer job. I think I was about 12 years old.
Hmm.
They, had the community summer jobs that you got through your school for low
Yeah.
income. And I was working at the Girls and Boys Club, and I was at the front desk. So I would wear my little outfit.
My goodness.
And then, that's after that is when I went to McDonald's. And so I started at McDonald's at 14 and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
I don't even know if it was
unbelievable.
legal. I got
Right.
hooked up on the job.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to work. And the reason why I needed a job is because my school, was I in high school at the time? No, junior high school. And the
Mhm.
school, we were going to Disney with the school with our language
Oh,
class.
nice.
We only had to speak Spanish, we couldn't speak English. So we went to Disney, and my
Mhm.
grandparents and my great grandmother and my grandmother on my mother's side, they taught me. I mean, they were from the South. They just raised me to be a beast. I will say that at that time. And so they were like, well, you got to pay for the trip. And so I did. I started, whoa, no problem. I started
Mhm.
working, and I remember before, because it was a franchise. I mean, it wasn't a franchise, it was a corporate one when I started working there.
Mhm.
Then when I turned about 15ish for that summer, I was like, I'm going to work tobacco farm. Listen, it was good money. I was making like $300 a week. I was rich.
Wow. My
I
gosh, that's
was
amazing.
making money. You hear me? Bought my school clothes, jewelry. And then I was told that when I came back to the store after the summer, it was purchased, for as a franchise. And so the gentleman who, Richard Berstrom, I will never forget him. He really gave me a lot of opportunities, and so he came there. When he met me, he was like, I heard so much about you. And he was into developing me. I
Mhm.
knew how to open the store. I knew how to close the store. I
Oh
knew
my
how to work the
gosh.
grill. I did all the birthday parties for all the children
Wow.
and cleaned up. Oh, listen, getting that cake off the floor.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways, I remember minimum wage had went up. This is a funny story.
Mhm.
Minimum wage went up, and I was making maybe 30 cent, 50 cent. No, I think it was like 25 cents less than someone who or more than someone who only did fries. And I was like,
Wow.
wait a minute, I know how to do the
The
whole
math,
thing.
yeah, the math is not mathing.
The
The math
drawer don't
is
come up
not
short.
mathing.
I'm here, I'm working over.
Right.
So anyways, so I talked to my Nana, my grandmother. I was like, minimum wage went up and I'm not getting paid enough. And she empowered me to set up a meeting with Rich. And I did. I was like scared, this young girl coming in. And again, I wasn't quite 16 yet. And I was like, look, Rich, this is what I bring to the table.
Mhm.
Pitching myself to this owner. Like, it's
Right.
crazy. So I told him, look, I do all these things and I'm only getting this much, 25 cents more than the people who only do fries. So he basically said, I understand. He said, if the only way I could give you more money is if I promote you to manager. So I sat back. Okay. So what we doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are we
Exactly.
So he said, so he didn't say anything. So I said, okay, then I'm officially giving you my 2 weeks notice. I already had a job at working at Kmart. Again, I don't play. You don't come to the table as a and
Exact.
not have something ready. If you ready to be ready, then
That's a lesson.
go
That's a lesson right there, people.
so I left. I went to McDonald's. I mean to Kmart. I hated it. It was retail, working on the
Mhm.
floor,
Mhm.
no interaction. At McDonald's, I knew all the elderly that came in. I made everything before they even order. When I saw them coming,
Wow.
it was a community at McDonald's. And so, anyways, he called me back in a month. I think it was like a month. He called me back in a month and made me a manager.
Wow. My goodness. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. I mean, I feel there's so many things that I want to touch on in that story. First of all right. So I guess if we're really doing things the right way, let's let's talk about Nana. Let's
Yes,
talk about Nana.
yes.
Let's talk about being empowered by Nana. Can you bring Nana's name into the room?
Nana, she just you'll hear more about Nana and how even beyond this realm, how
Yeah.
she's still supporting me today.
Yeah.
Coming from what I came through, even I remember moving with her and people raise their voice,
Mhm.
she wasn't yelling, but people would, be forceful and raise their voice. And I remember I would cry. Because I had went through so much abuse, and so somebody could just raise their voice even a little
Right.
bit, and I'm crying. And she taught me to be a beast.
Wow.
You
Oh
hear
my
me?
gosh.
No,
That
ain't
is
no
incredible.
crying. Now, it's a difference between learning to process your emotions versus don't cry.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
that's what I was taught by her and her mother. Her mother
Right.
was like, I remember I was crying over a guy before. She was like, "Don't you ever let a man see you cry." Like,
Right.
them women didn't play. You hear me?
Right. Yeah. They listen, they taught you what they knew. They taught
Yeah.
you what they knew.
Yes,
Yeah.
she believed in me so much. She made me believe that I could do anything in this world. And with her by my side, I did. I did so many great things. Even with my age now to have accomplished so much.
Mhm.
But again, I realized that those were outward success. You could have all the goals, you could have all the titles, you could have the money, the cars, the marriage, and still feel empty inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm grateful for her because I really think I think that when a woman has someone who has her back, especially as a young woman, a young girl,
Yes.
when we have someone who supports us, we are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. And so I love hearing that story. And it's only fair that we start with her as the elder and the ancestor. So I love that she really did that. And then also it makes me think about how the people who read your book and really understand your story are actually a part of Nana's legacy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
absolutely, I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that.
I
Thank
love that. Like you have done her name and your family serious justice with just telling your story, with just telling your story, in a time when women were probably silenced. So I love that. And then so I feel to me, it feels like that might have put a bit of a soft spot in your heart. And that is why community was so important to you. So I love hearing how you took care of the community that came into your location.
Yeah, leadership was always on the forefront. I remember when I was living with my mom and I would see all the girls going to the brownies and becoming Girl Scouts. And I wanted to do that so much. I just wanted to be of service. I wanted to be part of a community. And she never had the money, to be able to do that. And we struggled a lot. And so again, I got to do it later.
Right, right, right. I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. I love that. So tell me a little bit about okay, so you become manager. First of all, shout out to Rich Bersham.
Version.
Is Shout out to him. Great job, Bridge, for identifying talent and not being afraid. Because I think often people identify talent. This is my feeling. Managers will identify you as talented and then they're threatened, right? And so they don't want to give you responsibility and they don't want to do any of that. So I really love that he was secure in his role and insecure in who he was. And, taking a chance on you really wasn't taking a chance because he knew how smart and how quick, fast learning you were. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, if Rich ever watches this, I do wanna reach out to him and try to, find him one day. I think I found
Mhm.
his son on LinkedIn, but, he was a little baby when, I was working there. He talked to me about politics, about business ownership. Like, he talked to me on another level to where, and again, even as a manager, right? Because the other managers didn't necessarily not all of them. There were some we were really, really cool, but a lot of the employees and some of the other people didn't accept me because I was so young,
Mm,
and had to, lead.
right.
So a lot of people didn't like that. I'll be honest. But it was challenging, but I think it was what needed to happen to get me to even where I am today. That leadership opportunity really started me on my career, and I remember he would take us on his boat.
Right. Oh, wow.
He would give us gift certificates and money for Christmas, and he would give it to us after Christmas because he knew we would spend it on our families.
Well, I love
So,
that.
like, yeah, and even some of the stuff, like the stuff he taught me then, I use in my own leadership today. Even
Wow.
when I've commanded big teams being active duty, I use a lot of the things he taught me.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think we underestimate how important a strong leadership foundation is for us. So tell us a little bit more about what you moved into after that and, give us a little bit more of your career history.
Yeah, so, of course, then after I graduated, I went to college and University of Massachusetts Amherst, and got
Nice.
my degree in psychology and pre-med. I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist because I want to understand mental health and what
Right.
were the things that went on in my particular family. And then, I graduated and ended up becoming, so I worked several different jobs, but I started working for the prison system for the state of Connecticut. So I became a correctional officer and I did my 9-month probation. As soon as my 9-month probation was up, I got promoted to a correctional counselor. I wanted to do prison reform. I don't know. I wanted
Wow.
to protect
Wow. How
children. I wanted
interesting.
to protect humans against people who do terrible
Hmm.
things because I had, experienced so many things. So I wanted to make sure that our world was safe. So, I was on this Clarice Starling type, thing, and I
I
wanted
love
to do
that.
forensics. So then while I was working there, of course, I also worked as a substitute teacher. So I would get off third shift, go and work as a substitute teacher when I was a correctional officer. Listen, I was about my
Make
money.
making all the money, not
You
leaving
tell me,
anything
I
on the
never wanted to
table.
be poor again. Never.
Yeah,
I would work 10 jobs
I
at that
get it.
time. And so, then, I ended up I started at the University of Connecticut
Mhm.
at Hartford for my master's in social work because I knew doing mental health, I needed, a higher level degree in mental health. And so I knew as a social worker, I could have my own private practice,
Mhm.
have my clinical license. So I started there, but ended up getting engaged to my ex. And then I moved to Maryland because that's where he was at the time. And then I transferred to the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and Imma tell you what, that opened up the floodgates for me, okay? Being in the DMV, being near the White House, learning that we had interns who worked at the White House and all of
Mhm.
those things, and I was at the Baltimore Public Defender's office, and of course, this was around 9/11, and I was there that day watching the TV, like, in horror like everyone else,
My gosh.
And because I did junior ROTC and I did 2 years of ROTC in college, 1 year Air Force, 1 year Army, I said that day that I was going into the military. So I was no longer gonna do forensics, I was gonna do the FBI, I was gonna take an exam and do
Mhm.
all those things, but I said, "Nope, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spend my time and dedicate my life to serving." And so shortly after that, I worked for before that, because it took me a minute to get in, about a year. I worked for child welfare in Montgomery County. Again, why am I on working death row? I worked death row in Connecticut,
Right,
early
right.
child fatality and serious injury. So imagine I could work adults death row all day, but children,
That's different.
that was
That's different.
dead
Yeah.
children.
Yeah. That's
No.
different.
Give me anything. I'll do anything else. Like that one. So anyway, I got into the Air Force because it was a very prestigious program that I got into because normally you have to come in with your independent license. It takes a couple years to get that. But there was a residency program. So there was 9 residents selected in the whole, United States. So I got selected for that. And then that just, changed the trajectory of my life. Like I got a chance to serve. I got a chance to travel the world, work with some of the most compassionate people in the world to do what we did, being active
Wow.
duty, the sacrifice away from your family, the commitment, the communities that I got to serve and coordinate with. So it was just such a blessing. It grew me to the next level. And then I did about 7 years in the Air Force, transferred to the United States Public Health Service. Even though I got promoted, I think people were mad.
Wow.
It gave me that slot and I ended up transferring. But, my brother, I have a half brother and he passed tragically. And that changed my life as well. That was another thing
So
that was like,
sorry.
okay, and even thinking about it, the day he passed, it was a domestic violence incident. I'm there at a domestic violence conference because I was in charge of all the family abuse prevention for the whole base and for the whole Hawaii, the whole island, right?
Wow.
And so on this committee, and so it made me reflect because I remember my dad and how it affected him. It affected all of us, but I didn't have time to grieve. I still don't think I've really grieved. I think I put it away because it's unimaginable.
Mm.
Seeing him there, seeing the marks on him,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
like, and as a older sister, it's like, how do you process that? How do you, I got to separate myself, right? And so anyway, I remember my dad joking, saying, because at that time, we were the height of the war in Afghanistan was high, so that I was gonna get over there, right? And so my dad he was joking, and he said, "Malaysia, if they ever take you as a prisoner of war, they're gonna be begging the president to give you back."
Oh my gosh. My goodness.
So I knew he was trying to have a coping mechanism because he can't imagine burying another child, right?
My goodness.
So anyway, I decided a lot of people transferred into United States Public Health Service because they're another uniform service, but they're non-combatants. And a lot of us got to still do the same job, right? Because
Okay.
so we augmented all of the military officers that went overseas. We were sitting in their seats. So then, I left Hawaii and I was at Fort Meade. So I, did their behavioral health and primary care. I was the director and started that program there. And yeah, so then, of course, I really got a chance to do some really exciting things. After I left that job, I worked for the Surgeon General of the United States under President Obama. And then,
Amazing.
I became the director of addictions medicine for the entire Department of Defense. And I worked directly with the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. So I'm just telling you, like, because of what I went through in the youthhood, and even what talk to my clients about, and the people who I also talk with, the mental health professionals, even though we're helping other people, always have a pulse on you. Why
Yes.
are we doing what we're doing? Is it really for us? Are we doing it because we want to appear successful or think that we're successful because we went through so many things? And it wasn't until 2020 when that trajectory did change because
Wow.
In 2019, I got promoted to captain/colonel, depending on which service. We were in Navy uniforms. And many people don't make colonel. Like that's one,
Wow, that is so impressive.
it was one rank before admiral, captain. And, thank you. I'm just so blessed. But that was 2019. And that year, Tiffany, I asked myself, because when I got promoted, it was like, oh my goodness, I worked my life. Like even from junior ROTC in high school, like I worked my life for this. I was having my perfect bed and
Right.
ROTC and making sure my room was perfect and my shoes were spit shined. And it was a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I made it.
Wow,
Right.
wow. Beautiful, beautiful. Tell us, Malaysia, where can everyone find you?
So you can find me on all social media platforms. On Instagram, it's Malaysia H. Harrell. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, TikTok, and all the other places. My website is malaysiaharrell.com, and that's where you can contact me for speaking engagements, for holistic health wellness workshops, and my business, blissfullifeconsulting.com, which is a mental health and holistic wellness business. And we provide those solutions for individuals, groups, and corporate wellness as well. And so,
Perfect.
again, I think it is everybody, is not a luxury, right? To have self care and to have holistic wellness. It should be an inherent right to everyone. And I also founded Malaysia Harrell Foundation, which provides those services to veteran women and other underrepresented
Love that.
populations. So again, when I just became instead of doing service, when I became the service, I had to become it like holistically and spiritually. It changed the game.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What a powerful story. Thank you so much, Malaysia. I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to speak. Your words have been so impactful. Everybody, please go and check Malaysia out. Go to her websites, go to her social media. You want to be connected to a powerful woman like this. You want to be connected to a woman who has insight and who has grit that has been forged in fire. You want to be connected. Malaysia, I hope we have the opportunity to work together again at some point.
We have to do it. And you have to show up at one of the book launch tours. I'm going to be in London. I'm going to be in Austria, Vienna, Austria. Like we are taking this on the road. I became a WOMI peace ambassador under the United Nations. Like
Mhm.
I just said, you know what? We're always looking just what's in front of us. And so having that unwavering faith. So I really would love to see you. We gotta get you my book, of course. God has us.
Absolutely.
The teaching memoir about my healing journey. And it's really the blueprint for people who want to make a total life transformation. So again, I see us definitely connecting.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, Talks with Tiffany family, thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Definitely check out her Instagram, her social media, connect with her on LinkedIn. I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Enjoy the day. Have a good one. Bye.